Okay. All right. Welcome everybody to our August board meeting. And we appreciate you muting yourself if you're able to do that. That would be great. We're trying out our hybrid approach once again. And looks like most people are joining us online. We have a few people here at the school as well. Is everybody hearing me okay? Thumbs up if so. Cool. Awesome. All right. So thank you for those thumbs up. There we go. All right, let's see. Okay, and then hopefully you can see us. See me, you can see the rest of the board that's here. One person to mute. There we go. All right. We're pretty settled. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and review our agenda for this evening, and we can call this to order at 6:36 p.m.
That's good.
So at this point, our plan for tonight is to, of course, review the agenda, take any public comments. If you would like to comment, just a heads up that we'll be using the chat to get your hand raised or indicate somehow to us that you'd like to comment. And then we can take your comment for 3 minutes according to our guidelines. If anyone has not seen the agenda for our meeting, you can look on the board doc site where it lives. So that is there for you, and follow along with us. Patrice will give us a principals update. We'll also hear from Jared, Kathy, lots of things as we kick off the year. So I know we've got a couple of votes to do in there as well, and I have those noted. We've got our finance update from Philip, our PTO update from maybe outgoing Marnie. So hopefully she'll be able to share a few things with us tonight about that. And then as committees, we may want to touch upon our key goals, since we had our strategy session. If you remember, over the summer, we established 4 board goals. So we may want to just touch on those and see how we're doing. I know there's a couple of updates on the recruiting front for the board. And of course, Brett, if you want to say any words of wisdom for the beginning of the school year, we will accept those tonight. So that is the plan. So without further ado, I will invite anyone from the public to comment. And if you could just let us know in the chat if you would like to comment, we can call on you. The chat, let's see. Okay.
Any public comment? Going once, going twice. Either raise your hand in Zoom or comment in the chat. All right.
Okay.
Appreciate everybody's attendance.
All right. So if we don't mind going ahead and doing our usual vote of the prior meeting minutes, getting that one done first. We would be going back to July 12th was the last time that we met. So those minutes are in the board doc site for everybody's review.
I move to approve the minutes from July 12th as presented in the draft.
Great. Having motions to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you, AJ.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any comments?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, meeting minutes for July 12th.
Very good.
So approved.
Thank you very much. All right. All right, that's the quick one there. And now we will turn it over to you, Patrice.
Okay, so it's been a great start to the year. I always feel like I need to knock on wood, but it really has been a good start to this year. And we have a lot of different things going on, as we have talked about in the board meeting before. We are excited that we are close to finalizing the final closeout at IMHS. There are still some things on the punch list that they are committing to get done. They've had problems with staffing, like we hear so many times all over, but Jared is staying on top of them and making sure that we get those little things taken care of that mean a lot, you know, in the end. Anything, Jared, outstanding that you want to speak about just the high school in general for, you know, the construction piece?
Sure. The biggest, I guess, punch list item that is still pending is the paint touch-ups. There's quite a few areas where the paint just needs to be touched up, and some of it has to do with like some signs that were replaced. So you know, it's not necessarily because of like a poor job that was done the first time, but so that's one big thing. A few other minor things, and then, you know, as those things are addressed, we found some other things that are really more maintenance issues, so they're not necessarily part of the construction project. So a few of those things are being addressed, but I think for the most part we're in pretty good shape. This weekend we had some of the whiteboards that were damaged during the initial delivery and installation. They were replaced on Saturday, and they actually let us keep a couple of them to hang in other locations, which was nice. The damage was minimal, so it's not really like it's not even noticeable in some cases. So we basically got a couple extra whiteboards for free, so that was cool. And really, I mean, aside from the paint and a few other little things, I feel like we're in good shape.
I think we had our health inspection today, and
Yeah,
that went
that went
well.
well.
So that was probably one of the last pieces we need for the actual opening. Then on the Fuller's Cross, the drive line. So the drive line is been delayed to some extent, and we're now thinking that the drive line might not get complete until end of November, could even be December. That goes along with the drive line that's coming off of Fuller's Cross and connecting with our drive line in the front of our school, in front of the building. Interesting thing about all of that is we were really nervous with the start of school because we know how far the traffic is backing up because of the West Road not open yet on North Lakewood. We were worried that they were going to close off Fuller's Cross, but I think we got the city's attention, and probably other people got their attention. And so they told those people that are working on the construction for that roundabout area and for all the buildings that are going to be going up, that they couldn't close off Fuller's Cross the way they anticipated. So at some point in time soon, they will be using flags, and they will be encouraging everyone as possible to use alternate routes, which we mean that would still take you coming from North Lakewood from the south, which we already know that is really backed up. Can't really do much about it all, but this is the progress and where we're at right now. Any questions about the drive line and the soccer field?
So last time we talked, Patrice, I know we've had some back and forth on dates for the drive line. So now we're thinking November, December. Is that an improvement over what we talked to last time, or does that continue to push out? Because I thought I remembered something being even further out than that?
No, it was when you looked at the details of the push out for the end of the year, it's a lot of closing out the details so that the whole project should be mostly completed by the end of November, mid-December.
And so I know you guys are meeting with them regularly on Thursdays. Is there like a high level schedule that you guys have, an updated one that you can share with at least me? And I would assume maybe some other folks on the board would like to see that. Is there an updated timeline that they have?
Yeah, they actually just shared it last week. And so I can ask them, I think it was last week or the week before. So I can ask Justin to send it to us because I don't think, Stacy, I don't know if you remember, but David, I don't think that they sent us that updated timeline. So I can ask for it.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it either, but I don't know, Dave, maybe it came through.
I think we may have actually even seen it with a call that Dave and I had with Justin when we were talking about budget. That may have been when we saw it. So I can request it though.
Yeah, if we can get that, and it's something, if we can make that something we can share here, maybe in the next month's board meeting, just so that the rest of the board, maybe you guys can do just a high level overview of what that timeline looks like. And then let's just make that part of the ongoing discussion for the next few months while we see this out. So we're on the page. Part of
Sounds
this,
good.
my ability to not be in the Thursday meetings all the time as I'd like to. So please keep me in the loop here.
No problem. We're towards the end of finishing up what needed to happen on the main campus. The basketball court is curing, as what I understand. Kathy, is it 3 more weeks, 2 more weeks? Do you remember what they said before they'll be able to paint it and it will be ready?
Yeah, they said about 4 weeks, so probably another 2 weeks to go.
And then that will be available. So that will be nice once that's open. Any question about any of the constructions that open? I will get Justin to give us the timeline. I'll start sharing that in the board meetings as well. Because the Fuller's Cross is the one that's probably going to take us the most time at this point.
So if Driveline is November, December, when would like the soccer fields and things like that be finalized? Is that into early next year or still at the end of this year?
No. It's all, my understanding right now, it's all going to be complete. Now, here's the one part of this that is a little bit in the mix. One of the things that we're trying to investigate, because, we didn't bring power onto the property because we were trying to save on some expenses. But since the buildings that were on the property had power to them, we're now investigating the possibility of using the power, I don't know if you'd call that the power structure that's already there. We have to get an electrical engineer. So we're looking at that. And if that extended our time, I think it would be worth it if we could get that done, in a and wouldn't cost us too much. We're going to look into that as well.
There be a possibility, Patrice, if the Fuller's Cross side is completely shut down, would we be able to do any staggered dismissal process at all so that backup on Lakewood didn't reach the Buffalo?
I would have to talk to Kathy about that. I don't know how that would be possible, Stacy, because we have parents that have
multiple
children in all different grades, So, but I do know, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. They keep changing the timeline on that big sign that they have out in the property. When I was by there this week, Kathy, I saw that the timeline had changed again. I don't know if you know what it says now, Kathy, because I know you don't go that way.
No, the sign on Lakewood says the 15th still.
Okay.
We don't anticipate that they're going to shut it down fully
Okay.
right now. So
Okay.
we should be good.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so on to legislative updates. So when I gave the board, I gave you a lot of different information because I know that every year, we have new pieces of legislation that we have to, make sure we're on top of. And this year, there's been more of this information that's probably been in the news. And I know I've had some parents that have asked about it as well. So basically, I'm not going to spend a lot of time digging into it, but welcome to answer as many questions as I can. The first one is House Bill 1557. It's called the Parental Rights in Education. Sometimes it's reported in the media as Don't Say Gay Law. Basically, we've looked at the portion that talked about gender identity. We're not worried about this portion at all. What we know is we've never taught sexual orientation or gender identity at any grade level. And therefore, we've always complied with the law stating that it cannot be taught between the grades of kindergarten through 3rd grade. So that was that part of the law that kind of got that moniker of Don't Say Gay bill. And I do think on both sides, there was some overreaction and overreach to exactly what this bill did say. But again, it was just really specifically calling out that we can't teach sexual orientation or gender identity, specifically at grades K through 3rd grade. We never have taught it at any grade level. Some people were personally concerned. The examples that were used were teachers who may have the same sex partner. They were concerned that they couldn't have a picture of them on their, desk. And, OCPS came out with some documentation to really just calm everybody's nerves that that's not what this bill is saying. And people are free to express and show their gender identity, that's not the issue. It was a matter of it couldn't be taught in the schools in the kindergarten through 3rd grade levels. The other piece to this one was the piece that I was always a little bit more concerned about because it was a piece that talked about parental rights being that they should be notified when there's a change of service in their programs. And when we first met with the Arnold Law Firm about this in late July, right before school opened, they also shared with us that they were waiting for some more documentation to come down from the Department of Education. As you may or may not know, when these bills get passed, then there's a lot of rulemaking that goes into it, and the different departments have to address specific areas of concern. The specific area of concern that this had to do with is being able to opt out of different educational services that the school might offer. The original guidance we got from the Arnold Law Firm was they were still waiting for some rulemaking in terms of what is considered a service or a change in services. One of the things that happened, though, we discovered late last week, is that OCPS had come up with what they considered the way to address this law, and they had come up with what's called an opt-in form for parents. And they called out the different medical services, the different health services that they needed parents to go in using this form. And it was going to be, I think, Sue Skyward, go in using this form and say whether or not they were choosing to opt in every service. And until those parents did that, the services couldn't be offered to the students. Well, the reason why this got really messy and got my attention, because we had a lot of staff that were going to their OCPS meetings, and they were getting just some mixed messages, even in the meetings, mainly because it was something we weren't doing and we didn't understand why, because we were still waiting for some more guidance. So basically what I did is I sent to you the form that OCPS was using as what they considered their opt-in form. And we talked with our legal counsel, and they suggested that we take that form and we turn it into what we felt and what they believed was more true to what the nature of the legislation was, which is it's really an opt-out option for parents that So what we did is we changed the language of the form so that parents could opt out of these different services. And now they're going to take it to OCPS legal department on our behalf to get it approved. So right now we're still waiting because we sent it to them, late Friday afternoon. They've told me that they are now reaching out to the legal office at OCPS to share our form and to make sure that OCPS services such as speech and language screenings and different things that OCPS supports our school, we have to make sure that our use of an opt-out form will still allow them to be able to provide the screenings and the various services. That's a lot. So I'm happy to pause for a minute.
Does that make sense to you guys? I mean, the conversation Patrice and I had on Friday was, one, we're kind of shocked that OCPS was creating an opt-in form because the likelihood of getting people to opt in is much lower than opting out, right? And having people then not be able to access these services unless somebody opts them in is, very impactful to, the overall support for the students. So we decided to go with the opt-out form, so we have submitted that to OCPS, what I'm hearing.
I've given it to our legal counsel and they are trying to get in touch with them.
Arnold taking it to OCPS?
Yes, yeah.
But we've proposed an opt-out form that says, look, for all of these critical services, we would send this to parents to have them opt out versus opting in.
One of the ones that really got my attention, just as an example, was they were even telling our nurses that you can't hand out Band-Aids. I mean, this is how extreme they went. Real, like, even for health to go to the clinic, that parents had to opt in for their child to be seen by the nurse in the clinic, even to get Band-Aids or boo-boo bags, for ice.
What is our backup or fail safe for if something else comes up that it's not on this list? Are we going to have like another write-in form, or like if this is an extensive list, but I'm sure it's not fully inclusive of all possible services that we could potentially offer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And once they go through OCPS and it comes back to us, because the other one, Stacy, along with that idea, also the other one that I was a little bit wondering, how do we do, is we have to have a timeline. So we'd have to give a reasonable timeline for people. In the meantime, just so you know, because what I was really concerned is, for instance, in the day-to-day operations of the school, we had a group of students that needed to have a speech and language screening at the beginning of the year. That was being prevented. So what I reached out to OCPS and I said, okay, in the meantime, because they also shared with us that they are also going back to legal, because I guess they're maybe second guessing, what they need to do as well. But they did say, as long as I get emails, from the parents giving their approval, that we could go forward with those, because we certainly don't want to see those kind of services being held up. So Kathy and her team, because it's mostly at IMO, so Kathy and her team worked with that and got those parents involved so that we could have them screened.
And Patrice, if I may just clarify for any parent who's on here who's not aware of the process, we would do typically before this law screenings, general, high-level screenings of children. And then if we found that there was an issue that we wanted to investigate further, then parents were asked for consent before we could evaluate. So there already was a stopgap in place around parent consent for those services. So it doesn't make as much sense.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, the things that we've listed on this opt-out form, these are screenings that we would have done in prior years with no consent.
Well, sometimes like the vision and hearing, I think we already had an opt-out form for vision and hearing. And so some of these, we already still did have some of that happen anyway, but we're just lumping all these together. And we honestly, we use the list that OCPS used. And I think, Kathy, I don't think we really added anything new. I think there were a couple things that OCPS had that we didn't include because we don't offer them. One was
See, like gifted screenings.
right. So there's those kind of things that, again, because those usually come in for second grade as universal screenings. So that would also be something maybe we add in too.
I had a question on the form too, or what you guys have put together. There's opt-in, or sorry, opt-out boxes for all of these individual services and then Medicaid. But when you get to the mental health section, I wasn't sure if there intended to be an opt-in, or sorry, an opt-out checkbox for that piece as well, or what are we saying? What's our position here on the mental health services?
So Kathy's actually worked on the actual form that we want to use for the actual form that we're going to use. So she's been working on that because we're going to try to put it in Parent Square. And so for the mental health services, I guess what we could do is, again, we do provide, social work does provide typical services. And some of these we would have to probably do is take out the one that says services available with additional consent. There's the language already there because we don't go forward with those unless we do have consent. Does that make sense, Brett?
Yeah, I just didn't know if are they actually opting out of any of this? Or are we saying that'll all be handled via separate consent forms based on the types of services they need for mental health?
Well, the language that we were trying to use there is that these are services, the additional services would be ones that we would be reaching out to them anyway.
Right.
And at that time, they would have a different form to fill out to say that they're opting out.
Okay. I was just trying to understand are we limiting in any way our ability to provide the mental health services that we would normally provide?
No, because really, every year we usually do these anyway. When well, I'm speaking specifically around like if the interns, if you remember, and parents may not know this, the interns are the only ones who actually provide therapy. Our social workers, under their license, they can't provide the therapy, but they oversee the interns who actually have to provide therapy as part of their internship. And so whenever students are accessing that kind of a service, they always have to have a permission from the parent.
Okay.
Any other questions?
When do you expect to hear back from the county? Like, how quickly do we need to turn this around and get this out to parents so that we aren't impacting, we're 2 weeks into school?
Right. One of the things we have to do is, again, making sure that we were watching for those screenings, and Nicole and Kathy and Eileen, I'm sure they're going to be watching for those. Those would be those times we'll have to pick up the phone and make sure we're not missing out on any of those for those students.
Are we documenting that when we reach out to those parents? Is that something you guys have to have them formally consent to in the meantime?
Yeah, and Kathy, I don't know how you did that, but remember we asked about that, about the students that we had. Did you do it by email or did they pick up the phone and call them?
Yeah, both.
Okay.
But we do want something written. Those we reached by phone, not to email.
I was going to suggest, yeah. In the meantime, we get everything that we need documented.
You leave a write-in on these forms for any potential things that, I would think that there would be something specific in a parent's mind, maybe that they were trying to potentially opt out of. but I don't know if there would be an option to keep a write-in space.
I think that could get complicated, Stacy, when
Yeah,
people, yeah.
I see.
would li- yeah.
Certainly reaching out
Doesn't
to.
mean that we could agree to it, depending on the
Right.
service that's being, but at least you would know what the request was. But I mean, then you would have to.
But certainly we can, make sure that when we communicate that they know they can reach out to administration.
Yeah.
When we go to roll this out, is it something, are we gonna just send it out, send it home with the kids? You said something about Parent Square. How do you guys plan to get this?
Yeah,
Created.
the plan is to put it out on Parent Square, and Kathy's putting it together as a form so we can get all the data that we need.
So we can actually create a form on Parent Square that they can sign, fill out, capture it there online. Okay.
Kathy's not saying anything, but she's shaking her head.
Do School Mint too. I mean, that's where all of our other forms were housed, was School Mint, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next one, if we want to move on then,
Yep.
is student assessments. And there's, again, that's something that I think there's some misnomers about what's going on with the student assessments. And so I do think it's really important to understand student assessments have not gone away. And some of us might say that, oh no, they're actually even more often than they were for some children. So I'm going to give Kathy first an opportunity to explain what the new program, the state level program looks like for IMO, and then Jared will talk about what it looks like for IMHS.
Hi there. So we have every year done 3 periods of progress monitoring testing. And in the past, we have been allowed to choose which platform we use to do that. And we have used MAP, Measures of Academic Progress through NWEA. This time, so we thought, okay, so we're already doing 3 episodes of progress monitoring. We wouldn't do it for 4th grade and up because they had FSA testing, and we were able to compare this year's tests to last year's tests. But with progress monitoring through the state now, we have quite a bit actually less flexibility in when we roll out the testing and how we roll out the testing. And there's, of course, it's our first time rolling out this progress monitoring testing with this particular platform. And there are requirements around this testing, which we wouldn't have applied to MAP testing in the past. MAP testing would have been, fairly casual and relaxed. We just had to circulate the devices through the classrooms and just work out a schedule for that. Now the teachers all have to take the testing security course through Canvas that they would have taken for FSA testing in the past. They're asking for seating charts and things like that. So there's just a level of stress attached to this particular progress monitoring that would not have been attached to our previous benchmark testing through MAP, and that is going to happen 3 times a year. No doubt as we get used to it and move through this first period, it'll become less stressful. But still, I would just say that it feels a lot more stressful than what we had done in the past. And we have 3 episodes of this throughout the year.
What's the timing on the first one?
And they're giving us a pretty long window until the middle of September. They had rolled out a schedule which had elementary students testing this week. I reached out to district and said, we're just not in a position. We don't, as a Montessori school, we don't have a whole lot of devices for children kindergarten through 3rd grade. And so being able to test blocks of children or full grade levels of children en masse was going to be a challenge for us. So we reached out to district and they did kindly give us flexibility to test on our own schedule within the testing window. The testing windows will get shorter. This one is particularly long just to allow us to adjust to it.
Okay, Jared?
So at the high school, we have a slight advantage, I think, over IMO in that we are only expected to test our students in reading as opposed to reading and math, which is what the expectation is from the third grade through eighth grade. And that may even be for the K through 2 as well. I can't remember. Kathy can clarify that, but we've rolled that out through, we actually had our first group test today through their ELA classes. Go ahead. Sorry, thought I heard someone talking. That seemed to go pretty well. We did run into a little bit of an issue with timing, so we'll have to revise our plan a little bit for the testing that's supposed to happen on Thursday. But again, because we have this extended window, if we have students that missed the testing that was supposed to test, that we're supposed to test today, we can reschedule them. We were trying to do this in the least disruptive way possible. We were told that the students, the general education students, those who would not be entitled to any extended time accommodations would have 90 minutes. We're fortunate that our blocks of each class period are 90 minutes, but it did take a little bit of time today to get the test started. So we did push into the next period a little bit. So we'll probably have to do some revision. And we have tomorrow to work on that to have it ready for Thursday. And in the event that we don't get everyone tested by Thursday, we still have some time to finish that up either Friday or next week. So so far so good. I think the feedback from the teachers who were the test administrators has been positive. I'm curious to see what the results look like when they come in. They're supposed to be coming in pretty quickly. And I'm going to see how well that, kind of correlates to how the students did previously on FSA to see if there is a connection there. And how useful that information is going to be for us with regards to it helping to inform instruction, which is what it's intended to do. So I have hopes that it will be valuable information, but that's really yet to be seen. So, maybe by the time we meet again, we'll have more information, we'll have some results, and maybe able to share some data.
Are you testing on the same timeline as Kathy just talked about through mid-September, or is it a different timeline?
Well, because we just have 9th and 10th grade reading, it's a much smaller number of students. So we still have that same window if we needed it, but our intention is to have testing finished long before that window closes.
One of the reasons why IMO definitely needed to extend the window because at OCPS schools, they were giving them just a very short, I don't know, Kathy, I think it was just 2 days to get all the 3rd through 6th grade, I think, tested. And we just explained, again, like Kathy said, our limited amount of devices. In middle school, we have one-to-one devices as well in high school. So that's the reason why testing will go faster in those grade levels. Most of the devices that we did purchase, during the pandemic, we were kind of doing this thing where, unfortunately, the younger students might like it, but they don't really spend that much time on devices. So we basically are giving the older devices to our younger students as we're refreshing our supply. So now we know that, I guess, if we're going to be in this testing season, Philip, for a while, we now will go back to ramping up our devices in our budget line for next year. So that was really new for us this year. We did not expect that to hit us, though.
A testing cart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and in comparison to OCPS, like for high school, the expectation for the high schools was that they would test all of their 9th and 10th graders on the same day, which was today. And so, they're making assumptions because the high schools are one-to-one that they could coordinate that. And I can imagine that was quite the endeavor for high schools to have to shut down, classes for 9th and 10th graders to give them a chance to test. So I think we're fortunate in that we have a little bit of flexibility in how we can administer this test. And I think that will give us better results.
Kathy, how does this impact our MAP testing?
We no longer have MAP testing. This takes the place of MAP.
Okay.
I was gonna ask, if we got rid of that now?
Yeah, no more math.
Yeah.
Yeah, another interesting change, and this may not be a bad thing at all, is that in the past, our VPK testing has been done through the Early Learning Coalition, but now our VPK testing is going to be tied in with the district testing. So it's VPK all the way up through 12th for this progress monitoring. Interestingly, it's the same platform, it's Renaissance, which is a platform that kindergartners have used in the past for Flickrs testing. So it's a platform we're familiar with from K2, and we can't get access to it at the moment. There seems to be a glitch, but when we do, it's at least a familiar quantity to us.
How do you guys feel that that's gonna affect, the one thing with MAP is that you had some history, right? That you're building up over years that you could see comparisons to. Obviously, it feels like we're gonna lose that. Is there any correlation between the new testing that would tie back to anything relevant to MAP, or is this like
National norms and those kind of things as
Yeah,
well?
yeah, I'm hoping, like, we're going to wait and see what sort of data we get as a result of this test. I have loved MAP. I think our staff have loved MAP because it gives us some really good data. And I'll always say it's a data point. It's not the full picture of the child. But yeah, one of the big tests for this test for me is going to be the data that the teachers and admin get at the end of the testing period.
I'm assuming since they're gonna, after you administer it 3 times a year, that we'll start to build a history with this data, with this test data that you can then.
Right. And Leanna actually was able to download all our previous MAP data.
Okay.
So we have that for reference as well.
Okay.
The good news about the MAP data, since it is nationally normed, usually most of these systems do provide some kind of national norming. So I would hope that they will, but we'll see.
Okay.
And if not, we might be able to just look at like categorically comparisons. So typically there's, domains or strands of content, within ELA and within math that we can look for comparison to kind of see how students are doing. If we have something that gives like a percentile ranking or something beyond just like a scale score. So we don't have enough information yet to know how that's going to happen or, what the results will look like. But I think the intention is really to cover or to provide opportunities for students to see potentially content for the entire course of study, right? So potentially stuff that they will see throughout the course of that entire school year, into next school year, and so forth, right? Similar to the way the kind of MAP testing is adaptive. At least that's what's been communicated to us. So we'll see if the similarities are what they say they are, but that's what I'm kind of thinking, how that data can be valuable when we get it. That may give a viable comparison that we can look at our, previous data to the new data, see if there's any connections.
If there is data that you guys can share with us at the, in the future board meeting, certainly would love to see that.
Saving money on not purchasing MAP exams though, right?
Yes.
Pull that out for you, Dave.
Nope, that was a good thing.
Big number, Philip.
And not having to upload all those rosters is also lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, so on to House Bill, I'll skip 173 because that's pretty explicit around students who have epilepsy or seizure disorders, just having an individual action plans, which actually we've already had that in place. So, but maybe that was needed statewide. The other one is House Bill 1421. That's the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas school safety. Just real specifically, there were a couple updates this year. One was that local law enforcement needed to provide additional officers besides the SRO to be present during our monthly active assailant drills and our lockdowns. So that was new. And you know, it's the city of Ocoee is always great. And so we had our first 2 lockdowns, and they had their officer there along with our SROs. And basically, they're the ones that actually really conducted it. I think in each case, Kathy was allowed to walk around, and I think Jared was allowed to walk around, but everybody else had to be locked down. So, you know, it's intentful. When we met with police chief, you know, she made mention too that the intent of the law was to get as many officers in schools, seeing what it looks like. So for that reason, hopefully it will be a good thing. The other part of the plan that was updated was that we have to adopt a family reunification plan. We always have one of these. It's a part of OCPS's safe school plan that we always have to do in September. And so right now the state is going to be preparing their own template for what a family reunification plan will look like. But right now we don't have that. So we'll just go forward with what we normally put out by OCPS in the safe school plan. Any questions about 1421?
No.
Nope.
Okay. So then on to House Bill 7. That was the one that I gave you an overview. One of the things I learned from Sean Arnold was that sometimes these overviews are not as explicit as they should be, or maybe targeted as they should be, but I felt like this was a fairly good overview. This is the one that sometimes people are talking about in terms of the critical race theory, but it also has to do with instructional materials. It has to do with even professional development, as well as for private employees, as well as schools and education. I'm going to tell you, I don't know as much about this one as I do the other ones. I'm still waiting to really unpack a little bit more of it. I gave you a little bit of a definition that Schutt's law firm, who we used in the bond. I thought this was interesting that they came up with something for employers to understand about the H Bill 7 and the revisions in Florida. The University of Central Florida has put together an FAQ for UCF faculty and guidance. It doesn't really necessarily apply to K-12, but we really are still waiting for the Department of Education to come out with more specific rules around this one. And one of the things that we did talk about was, you know, civics and how this might apply to our civics classes. But right now, again, we've never taught critical race theory, so I'm not that concerned about it, but I did want to put it out there as some information. And once I get to know a little bit more the ins and outs of how it applies to us, I'll be able to share more. Any specific questions? I know, Brett, you keep looking down the corner, and Kevin is very quiet in all this, so I don't know about that, Kevin.
I keep thinking you're I see your picture on the screen over here, and then you look frozen, but you're just like, no, it's down there. I keep looking to go, is he really moving? Like, it's a weird setup we have here. So
The back, cover your camera, and you always look dignified.
yeah.
So we have H Bill 1467. Again, this is the other one that does impact us around needing to notify what books we have in our library. So a couple of things that we're still waiting again for some rulemaking on this is that as charter schools, we don't have media specialists. So the Arnold Law Firm has a feeling that we're still going to have the same burden that typical traditional schools will have of being able to put together a list of the books that we have at school. So it's really not anything that that we're frightened of, except for the work that's going to go into it. So any parents that are on this, that want to volunteer for this task, we do have some scanning, oh my gosh, barcoding, that we have at the high school that we're using, which will help us with this task. We need to get that over in IMO as well. We also know that we have one of the things that I shared with Brett that we will need to do. Typically, we, for the most part, rarely have textbooks. Even in 7th and 8th grade in high school, most of the teachers always approach using a textbook as simply a resource because we are always teaching to the standards. So when you're teaching to the standards, a teacher will use a textbook as a resource. They'll use websites as a resource. They'll have, just hundreds of different, not hundreds, but some of them will have just hundreds of different types of resources they may use. So we do use textbooks and we have purchased textbooks. We've never gone through an official process of having a committee for those textbooks. So that will be something that, again, we'll be looking to do, putting together a committee, presenting it to the board, what the choices are, and just even coming up with a policy for how we're going to handle an objection if there is an objection to any textbooks. Again, a lot of these, we're waiting on a lot of guidance. This one, House Bill 1467 has a lot of deadlines around January. So again, we're still waiting for some more information to come out about this one.
Question on this one related to setting up our library. Are we able, our high schoolers are getting decently capable as as humans. Are they able to get volunteer hours to help us get our library up and running, or even other things at the high school that need done?
Oh yeah, we've had a lot of parents coming in. Our parents built our bookcases. Yeah, they built our bookcases.
You're volunteering your children, Philip, to do
I mean,
it?
my needs volunteer hours, but as a
Yeah.
whole, we've got 170 high schoolers there who could handle cataloging books and doing things like that. They need their hours towards their state volunteer hours,
Yeah.
right? To also
Right.
for that. Is that something that's available to them to be able to help them?
So I always have to look into, I always look to Cindy as she is the go-to person for those questions. There is some areas our own students can get volunteers at school, and then other times they can't. So I'm not going to speak to that. I would have to have Cindy really speak to that. I don't even see her on tonight. Unless, Jared, that, whether or not they can use volunteer hours for doing that work. I think it has to be after school, weekend, those kind of things.
Yeah.
So there's specific criteria for what qualifies as the community service hours that Bright Futures will accept. And that's a little bit different than just typical volunteer hours, right? They kind of make a distinction. So it would need to happen outside of the school day. And there are some guidelines that Bright Futures has with regards to like what types of organizations the students can volunteer with. I don't know if that's something that fits. I think Cindy is certainly more well-versed in knowing like the specifics of that. What I can say is we do have a library committee. That's a group of students who are interested in helping us to kind of curate a library. And we're fortunate that we had some parent volunteers build some bookcases for us. So we're kind of nearing the first stages of actually setting up the library. We still have some furniture that has yet to be delivered to help with kind of just the atmosphere of that space. Because right now we still have a bunch of books in boxes and on the floor that need to be sorted and recorded and all that. But we do have some students that are going to be helping with that during committee time on Tuesdays, along with other ideas that they may have as to how to best use that space. So that's exciting. And that's a large group of students. I actually peeked my head into that committee meeting today, and it was a pretty large group. So it's nice to know that our students are interested in this project and wanting to get it up and going.
Okay, and so we're coming to the place of the votes, and then I want to talk about athletics just briefly. So I'll give that over to you, Kristen. So the first vote we have, I don't see Marnie here, but I do see Sarah is here. Hi, Sarah. So our first vote is to replace Marnie Fisher, who now has joined us as an upper L teacher. And Sarah, is it Flecko? I want to say it right.
It's Valeco.
Valeco, thank you, Valeco. So Sarah Valeco is being brought to you to be our new PTO president.
Hi, Sarah. You've been in the vice president position up until now, correct? Last year?
Nope, I
Nope.
was vice president for 5 days,
Just-
and
Just
then
this year,
That's
and now
enough.
I'm
fully
president.
qualified.
So I'm very experienced, learning the ropes, learning all the names. I've had a lot of meetings, so I'm catching up to speed here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you wanted to take a minute just to introduce yourself to some of the board members here, but really appreciate you being willing to step up and take this role. I know it was last minute with Marnie kind of making some of her decisions, and we're excited for her, but also super excited to have you and being willing to step in and take on this role for us.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm really excited. I've got 2 children. I've got a son in 3rd grade and a daughter who just started 1st grade. So we're in the lower L community. My son, both of them started in kindergarten and primary. We had our primary year for my daughter virtual. So we did the whole COVID pandemic, and we've made a lot of great friends, and we've always been so excited to be part of the IMO community. And I'm really looking forward to giving back and helping to bridge the parents and the community with administration and the school.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to have you. And again, I appreciate your willingness to step up. It's a great position. I think it does give you a tremendous opportunity to give back. You know, Philip and Kristen, you guys have been in that kind of role with the PTO in the past and have now been part of the board. So it is also a great stepping stone for some future opportunities to give back as well. So just putting that out there. But I would just say, if we certainly can open the floor for a vote and go ahead and confirm that. So if anybody's got any questions or concerns for Sarah, open the floor for that. If not, I'll entertain a motion to nominate Sarah Vlecko to be president of the PTO.
I'll make that motion.
Sounds good. We have a second.
I'll second.
Stacy seconds. All right. Any comments? All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Sarah, congratulations.
Congratulations.
I would
Thank
ask
you.
if there's anything that we can do to help. If there's anything I can do, just if you would like to connect with me and just chat and talk about things that are on the agenda for you guys and what we can do as the board to help support you. Certainly happy to make some time to do that.
Thank you. I'll reach out and set something up. I would definitely love that.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, Sarah. So the other thing we have to vote on is our teacher evaluation system. We do vote on this every year. It is, I will tell you, OCPS hasn't asked me for this for the last couple of years, but I just keep sending it to them. But we are continuing to use the Charlotte Danielson version of the teacher evaluation. And our student growth data, that is 30% of the teacher evaluations, will be determined once more information is known about the changes at the end of the year. Because one of the things we didn't mention with all the assessment changes, FSA is going away and BEST which is our new standards, is going to replace that. And so whenever they do this, there's always some juggling that goes along with matching up those test scores. So not sure yet what they're going to be doing around that for the grades that are 4th through 10th grade, but we will be looking into what we can use for the other grades if we're still expected to use that as a portion of their evaluation. Make sense?
Yep. So we need to
Okay.
vote on this again.
Yes.
Okay, and then you need me to sign this and give you a copy of this form.
Yes.
Nicole, can you print this one for me since you're here?
I'll make a motion to approve the teacher evaluation system as written for the 22-23 school year.
We have a motion on the floor for approval of the teacher evaluation form as presented. Second from Kevin. Any questions, concerns, comments? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carried.
Okay, so saving athletics for the end. Not going to go through all this. We'll be posting more information about this. Naya's been doing a great job and Brandon's been doing a great job of just informing our community, but just am really thrilled about their work and where we've come so far. We had a big turnout for Brandon had the second wave of tryouts for our high school girls volleyball team. And I think he had a big group of girls that showed up for that. So that's very exciting. One of the things I wanted to bring up, we want to have an athletic event in the evening sometime before the end of August. Naya was asking about that. And one of the things that I want to do is, because one of the things that she was investigating, and then I dug into it as well, is looking at us establishing a booster club. Because at first I was leaning more into, this is a great opportunity for us to use Plan Giving again and have a very targeted, just call out for our community that if you want to, donate to Plan Giving, that Plan Giving this year would be targeted for our athletic program. Some of the things that we need to be able to do is we need to be able to get uniforms. High school uniforms are more specific than middle school uniforms. And we also are still using various venues for practices. So there's money that goes into that. So Naya came up with this idea of booster clubs. I have since then done some research. I've reached out to our honored law firm as well to get possibly, some feedback on what I was seeing. Basically, the bottom line, and I'm just realizing I'm going to forget the terminology. There's a term, Kevin, maybe you can help me. There's a term that is used for boosters around the state of Florida that most districts follow, and they call them outside support organizations. And basically, we could run a booster club where all the finances run through our school and manage, under our school. But Sean was just suggesting, and from what I'm seeing, a lot of other districts actually go in this direction as well. They ask for parents to set up booster programs. There's some real specific guidelines I've found from a couple of the districts that I feel like give us a really good structure for how to form them and, what steps they would need to do to get it up and running. But they would be considered an outside support organization. They would still have to follow our, policies, and they still have to do certain things to comply to be able to have that designation. But it would allow them to function outside of the school. And yeah, that's it. That's a lot. Anyway, does anybody have any specific questions about that?
So do you guys, are you making a recommendation here on something to do? It
Well,
looks like
that's what I
these are
don't
not-
know. I don't know. Is this something we need to vote on? Is this, so that's what Kevin, I was gonna look
Yeah.
to see what you're thinking.
Why don't you and I get together on this before the next
Okay.
board meeting? I do represent a direct support organization in Lake County and have a kid that goes to a high school with a booster club, so I could probably figure some things out. And we'll get together and see what that process looks like. If it's as easy as, signing a few documents, having it set up, and then any contributions that come in, I mean, $1 is better than $0. So let's
Right. Well,
But-
and I know we might have some parents that are interested in it. So what I can do, Kevin, I can send you the 2 documents that and I'll just, send these to you. Also, the honors law firm, they were on booster clubs too for their own kids, for their own son. And they said that they would send me their bylaws so we could look those over as well. So.
Yeah, there's different ways you can do it. I think if you're a statutory direct support organization, you're subject to sunshine laws and some other things. And there might be some pros and cons to doing it a variety of different ways. You could just have a separate 501c organization probably to do it, but that's expensive. So we can look at the options. I'm happy to be involved with that. I think that's a good idea. We're gonna need money, and either the students are gonna have to kick in a bunch of money to participate, which I don't like to see students discouraged by finances from participating in any school activities. So happy to be kind of the board's liaison to that process if it's helpful.
Would be
Yeah,
great.
and what I was saying, Brett, today I was saying to Naya and Brandon, as I said, in the meantime, though, because I do think it's going to take us a little while to get this up and running, and thank you, Kevin. I was hoping you would be a help in this area. In the meantime, I would like to propose that idea if we could start communicating out to our families about using plan giving in support of our sports program. I don't know if that's too specific enough, but I wanted to put that out there. Is that something that the board might be interested in doing?
Plan giving is still there, right? It's never gone away. If we have a subject to rally it around, I think it's much more effective. So, we've talked about, we've raised some funds for shade structures in the past. I think this is I'd have no problem saying with rally some support around that. Maybe Sarah, this is something you and I can chat about in terms of how the PTO can help, with some of that as well. So I think we can definitely put some support behind that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been talking about, having some focus around some of the fundraising. This seems like the logical area where there's a lot of energy being
When we
put
have
into
something
it.
to anchor to, it's much easier for people to connect to and be willing to support.
Yeah.
And
Tie Giving Tuesday in there too as well for this particular need this year as well.
Are we charging a fee for any participation? I know your notes here, Patrice, said about $70. Some schools charge. Are we doing anything like that right now?
We've got to figure that out. We haven't done anything with it yet, but we're definitely going to be. And then, like Kevin said, our philosophy always is that we are not going to have that be a barrier for any child who wants to participate, but our families have always been great. Those that can afford it have always stepped up, and paid for whatever we needed. And so we'll make sure that anybody who can't, we'll make sure that they get taken care of.
Perfect.
That could be something that we could do. If we're going to go the booster route, we could even make a booster chair on the PTO, because if there's going to be multiple organizations, or if we're looking for something immediately, we could add a donation button on the school store and post something to Parent Square just to get a little bit of that excitement for more immediate funds coming in for athletics. I spoke with Kathy earlier today, and she mentioned that that was going to be our big fundraising goal of the year too for the PTO, since there's a lot of new programs and a lot of new excitement. So that's what we're going to be focusing our funds that we fundraise this year.
Yay.
So let's align forces on that
Okay.
and make that happen.
Yes, that makes sense.
That's good.
We're gonna do.
Okay, my last thing on there was everybody already went out and voted. So I know the millage is going to pass. So I meant to take that off, but I didn't take it off. So that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Patrice. That was a long one. There was a lot to cover there.
Good stuff.
It's all good. I know at the beginning of the
Back to
year and
school.
then all the the laws and everything. So good info. Thank you. So we're going to go over to finance.
No, it's just passing.
Well, thank you.
Oh, yeah. 81. Sweet.
All right, finance update. Overall, I feel like the end of the year snuck up on me and I was like, oh wait, we just finished a fiscal year. So we finished a fiscal year and I did not make as many notes as I intended to. Give you guys a little recap on it. But the short summary is we ended decently better than budget last year. Some of that was caused by disruptions and delays in spending. So we normally would spend more in June, but those dollars fortunately just roll forward with us into this year, putting us in a good position. Audit also has been started. Files over to the auditor up till September 30th to get it into Orange County, which we always meet. And our auditor started sending questions over for Dave. So it's always one of those highlights of an accountant's year, working through audit. In case you didn't know, it's not finished. Let's see. Overall for this year, our budget is, so far from what we can tell, there's a little bit of a highlight on one change that will be coming through, though it doesn't impact the bottom line, and that's related to TSIA. But overall, we're looking like it's reasonably solid. We think FEFP estimates are going to come in about where they were, and those pieces will be coming together. Biggest change that we are seeing is with TSIA. You guys might remember, I keep talking about this way more than I want to, but it is that biggest uncertainty that sits. We'd had guidance that we were going to see a 5-fold increase, which would have been several $100,000 more than the $130,000 we got last year, or 20, give or take something. Turns out in the end it was no, it's a 5-fold increase of this one small subset of the overall factor. So that large increase that we were skeptical on actually coming through is not coming through. So there will be an increase, but it's not like couple $100,000. It's like, let's say it's like $80,000. So we had earmarked that, knowing that it is the teacher's salary increase adjustment. That's what TSIA stands for. We'd earmarked all of this to flow through one way or another to salaries. So the impact on the bottom line is nothing, because we were going to get those dollars in from the state, send them right out in salaries and wages. The impact of the teachers' bank accounts is obviously different, but since we hadn't communicated it in advance, you're getting a 12% raise. We just said, we're giving you 2%, and then whatever we actually do get from the state will pass through to you. So that's looking to be about an additional 3%. As we talked about last month, we aren't actually going to start giving those dollars till we start getting those dollars. Last year, it took them until February to get us that money. So if we get it in February this year, we'll pass it along as a February retroactive when that finally does come in. More likely it'll probably, hopefully, fingers crossed, we're looking at November, December, or maybe even October. But some of these earmarked dollars seem to always just take a little bit longer to make it through. That is the biggest variance that we're anticipating seeing. And overall, if you look at July financials, they look a little, I'll be sending them out in just a few days probably, if I actually pay attention to my reminder on my calendar. They look a little wonky, just like, wow, we're way better than budget. We're not spending anything. That's just has to do with where the costs fell. We closed the first week of July, things get up and running, all the stuff arrives in August, so nothing actually gets dispensed in August. So by the time we get to end of August, anticipating that our budgeted costs, everything will be lining up pretty close with what we were anticipating. Outside of the TSIA, nothing really, well, I guess the other update, still working through some of the details related to bond, making sure we understand all that, getting all those things lined up. Looks like not seeing anything that's a shock or a surprise. There's always that scramble to make sure that it is not a shock. You see and go, oh my gosh, I think it's, oh wait, no, never mind, we had it right. We're okay. So a little of that here and there, but overall, haven't seen anything that jumps out that like needs bigger awareness or updating. So that is the high level overview on finances as we're settling into an organization that kind of is having some routine. So I suppose actually all of the building costs and all, I think sit in a different project, so I don't actually see those. Now to say that, I probably should go digging and poking for some of those numbers.
Question I had, Phil, just on the finance committee, are you still getting the same participation? What's membership like in that committee been?
I could probably benefit
recently?
from one additional member if someone is interested. One of our longtime members has had some changes in his life situation, so he's stepping back from the committee. So it wouldn't be bad to have an additional member who might be from more of a finance accounting background to join us on that. So primarily, it's as we've settled in, it's a little bit more where we were more historically, where board treasurer, Dave, Patrice, Kathy, and Jared are joining a little bit more as more of the financial responsibilities are transferring to them. So it settles in as that once a month where we make sure we all come together, dive into some of those questions, talk through some of those details. Allows for that space of where, yeah, let's send this one, let's have Dave send this to the auditor, kind of follow up for guidance or instruction, might have some additional follow-up items. So it is in its own space, even if it's just staffed by not a larger committee, but by staff members, it's still a beneficial point to have it on that calendar of, we talk finance at this time. So it's a more
Well, my thought was, Kristen, I think we have this somewhere on the agenda too, to talk about, interest in board membership. I think the finance committee is somewhere we need to build some depth, some strength, some bench strength then. So as we talk about candidates, since there's folks out there that are interested in opportunities to contribute to the organization, folks with that finance and accounting background would be extremely useful to us and could participate pretty much right away in the finance committee.
And it's a totally agree with you. It's a great space to have depth. You want that length of time in the organization, being around the finance, hearing the budget.
It takes a while to pick up all the nuances.
Adapting, what is the ins and outs? We talk about TSIA every month. We talk about grants and cash flow are a challenge every month. These are, you get familiar with that, and building that depth is there.
So if there's interest, anyone in the community in helping participate in our finance committee, certainly reach out to Philip or myself or Kristen on the board. Happy to talk to folks about how they can get involved in that.
For all of you with your many finance and accounting friends and family members who are just dying to get involved in a wonderful organization.
No promises, but I'll reach out to my wife. She works in finance, so I'll see if I can nudge her a little bit to see if she wants to help out.
Oh, that's right.
That'll work.
Noted. Okay.
Duly noted.
All right. So wrap on the finance and PTO. Looks like we have a brand new president. Yay. Sarah, would you like to give your first official PTO update now that you're official?
Ooh, I feel so official. Thank you all. Well, I'm the new PTO president and I'm looking forward to it. We are having our first public meeting on Saturday at the high school. It's going to be the PTO and IMHS's own student-driven PTO. So they have decided to have their own student-led parent support organization. So we're kind of working with them. We're going to run it separately, but together we'll host this event. We'll do the meeting, and then we're having a bingo fundraiser, which will be really nice. A lot of excitement for parents to see the high school for the first time. Coming up after that, we will be having our Fall Fest at Long and Scott Farms. We're going to be having a few vendors selling t-shirts, having some food trucks, and then we're also going to be having our community closet there. That's going to have donations that people have given with uniforms that are in good condition for people to share with. We'll also be doing a fundraiser at the Fall Festival, which is a big truck, and they are going to be paying us per pound for clothing donations. So not uniforms, separate clothing that people maybe want to get rid of. And then everyone can bring it there. And at the end, they're going to let us know how much we have raised as an organization. So we are really excited about that. And then the final event for this quarter will be the chili cook-off, and that will be coming on November. And that's
My
the
daughter's
PTO update.
for the chili cook-off. That's all I know.
We have a tentative date of November 12th around 5:30. I just want to review my notes, but that's the tentative date so far. We'll get that posted soon.
It was a hit last time we did it.
Yes, it was so fun.
Sweet.
And Sarah, the Fall Fest is which date and time again?
Oh, I'm sorry. That is, oh, I should know this right off the bat. That is September 24th. I think it's a Sunday, and we are still waiting on the time. I'm working with my committee, but we are hoping for the morning just because of how hot it still is in September.
There is a question in the chat. What did you say before that the PTO goals / fundraising will go towards this year? Athletic? Or
Yeah, there's some talk of a shade structure for around the new basketball court and athletics. We do need to be cognizant of running the two separate programs separately because we're doing the high school's financials separately than 8th grade on down. So we'll have to figure out how that's going to work with the boosters, but we can support athletics and the PTO of the high school as well.
So just, sorry, Fall Fest Saturday, the 24th?
I believe
Say the
so.
20th.
Let me double check that. Do.
24th.
No. I think it's
Amiga, mi amor, ¿qué pasa? Porque no estás en el cuarto, mi vida.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Got it. So Sarah, the 24th, Saturday?
25th Sunday. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sarah, we were hoping as well, maybe if we were at the board meeting, at the PTO meeting on Saturday, we could just make a quick statement about the fact that we're looking for board members, as a 7th board member specifically. So we can find somebody to pop up and make that announcement if we have a minute to do that.
Perfect. We will definitely put that in the agenda so you can have time. Anything else you'd like to add to the agenda for the upcoming meeting?
No, I think that's
Okay, perfect.
I would like to add that parents can find all these events on the Parent Square calendar.
Yes.
yeah, very nice to see that. Great. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are on to just general committee updates. Or shall we begin with that?
I was just gonna go to, I think we need to get, we do probably need to convene a committee meeting around our ED search and that hiring process that we discussed in the summer meeting. So I'd like to find some time and between maybe now and the next board meeting or whatnot to initially kind of lay out that initial plan of things we want to go do. That would be my
An executive committee meeting for that.
Yeah, I mean, well, we talked about convening. We have a hiring committee that we've had in place as one of our ad hoc committees over the years, and we've used for a couple of different things. So probably look to convene it under that committee's authority to conduct that search and make that recommendation.
Okay. We will find time for that.
Let's do that. Other than that, I think you've hit on the board membership item, and then honestly, we probably just need to reconvene on our other goals at this point, unless somebody else has comments on that. I know we've got the high school grand opening coming up too. AJ,
Touch on
you
a
want to
couple
talk on
things
that?
if you want. So thank you for sharing the Eventbrite. We have 105 tickets sold already for our grand opening for the high school, which is fantastic. So,
It counts everybody that has like a family of 4.
right,
So
right.
it's still good. It's still a good number. Don't get me
It's a
wrong, but I
win.
went through it and I was like, oh, okay.
That's
Now it makes a
good.
little
Yeah,
more
so,
sense.
so fantastic, and thank you to Lachey and Jared and Kristen and everyone getting the invites official and looking great. So we do need to kind of just tighten up what we want for entertainment wise, food wise, we're gonna do that. So the next, say, week or so, I might try and reconvene another meeting.
I may have told everybody at Meet the Teacher there was going to be
We were
food.
pumping up.
There was food trucks and live music and
and
clowns. And
Oh
Kevin
dear.
was gonna dress
It's
up
gonna
as-
get big real quick.
Dunk the lawyer.
We did promise it was going to be a shindig.
Oh, yeah, dunk tank. That would
So
be good.
in the next week, I will get a meeting to just get the ball rolling on the rest of the details for that. And Sarah, nice to meet you as well. And I will make an effort to come over to the PTO meeting on Saturday and just really introduce myself on behalf of the board and speak to everyone there. I think it's a lot of exciting things. I know Marnie did a fantastic job with fundraising. And, now that the school, the building has settled down with the purchase and the high school is up and running now, I think with, it's a great time to really focus our efforts and get us rowing in the same direction from a fundraising standpoint and organization. So I will be over there. Check with the wife first, make sure I have a big plan, but of course.
Big Saturday evening.
Yes,
plan.
absolutely.
Bingo.
Still
Now
got
it's
a new
bingo.
baby, man.
Yeah, one of the 4 kids in the house, but yeah, that's all I have. Just want to give an update on this.
I did check. Patrice and I were talking about this the other day about, we sent out an email to some of our dignitaries that we've invited to the meeting. So
Mhm.
City of Ocoee, Orange County Public Schools, some of our local politicians, some of the folks that have helped us with some of the construction and building hope. I've seen a few people, and when I went through the Eventbrite registrations that have responded from that list, I'm gonna just put together a follow-up email to all of those folks, and I'll do that in the next day or so, and just kind of get that back out to them for, asking for their support and attendance. We did get our school board member, Melissa Bird, said she's gonna attend, and I know Rosemary Wilson from, she's the city commissioner for that district in Ocoee, and helped us kind of with some of the building work over there. So they both RSVP'd. But we certainly want to get the mayor and everybody else. It's always get as many people out as we can to attend. I know it's a Wednesday evening, and some of these folks from Building Hope and whatnot are from out of town, but we'll still extend the invite to everybody that we can and see who comes. It'd be cool.
So just real quick on recruiting for the board, that is part of our goals for the year, is to add a 7th member. So shout out to all the public tonight. You probably saw it in the announcement for the meeting, but just kind of putting it out there that, we are looking to diversify our board, to increase the size of our board so that we have more depth. The committees are also a great way to get involved and dip your toes in. So I am available if you want to reach out to me for further conversation about the process. You all will see I drafted an updated document kind of just describing overall responsibilities for the board and the process that we would go through to select a board member. So that's out there, take a look. And we have a few people who've already surfaced from that first email. So I love the energy at the beginning of the school year. So thanks, keep it going. But we do have a process where you would attend a few board meetings, participate in some form of a committee, and then we would talk further about interview, etc. So there is a few steps to the process. So we're just putting the call out now as we start the beginning of the year to see who's interested. I can talk with you more about, what are the specific areas in which you can contribute and how you can best contribute. So please reach out. Yay.
Salary and benefits are negotiable.
So, and we can talk about, anything that you have questions about. Happy to follow up on that. So, I sent everybody an email about name tags as well. Thank you, Philip, for discussing the name tag question about having name tags for the events, so let me know
I
about.
actually saw my text, but I'm gonna tell you I was running late today, and I was like, oh, right, we also talked about t-shirts. Do we want to do anything there, or? just go with name
Yeah,
tags
I guess that is a
probably,
good
or
question.
not
So we were
t-shirts,
gonna
but
order IMHS name tags for the board, and then also have the IMO ones that we currently have. So do we feel that we want to also do shirts, updated shirts for IMHS, or do we want to just stick with our name tags? Kind of logistical, but
I wouldn't mind getting like another embroidered shirt.
uh-huh.
If, I don't
Okay.
know if that
Do we have more
place
of
that
a-
has the logo Patrice that we've used in the past for the IMO stuff.
Yeah, it was a Layla.
Stitches by Layla. Mm-hmm.
Yep, they have the new logo.
They have our IMH logo.
That's less.
I don't know. I feel like maybe they do, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'll put that on. That's another one of those Cindy questions, because if anybody had given it to her, it would have been Cindy, because I think we did for our custodians, but I can't remember for the high school.
I've gotten stuff done there before, so
Yeah.
I think that,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it's an updated logo per
It's the
se.
high school
Yeah.
logo, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it may be because Cindy sent me a link to them for the name tags. So I think she had a link where all the logos were.
Okay.
So
I still have some of the old high school t-shirts that we had from when we went to the
yeah.
Orange County Public School
Oh,
to get
yeah.
approval for the charter. That
wow.
those are some cool shirts. Yeah.
Yeah. So as long as they have the logo available there, then we can go on our own and just take a white shirt and, just get an updated
Yeah.
shirt. I'll place a group order for the name tags. So
Okay.
Stacy, what's the name of it again? Is it Layla?
Stitches by Layla. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure.
you're right. I think you're right. Okay.
okay. Anything else? Committee updates? President update?
No, I think the only thing I was just gonna say was, congratulations to Patrice, Kathy, Jared, Nicole, Eileen, Liana, Lachey, everybody for just a successful start to the school year. We're super excited. Thanks for being here tonight. And just let us know what we can do to help support you guys. We're excited to be everybody back in business and have our new buildings going. And Jared, thank you. And that's all I got.
Thanks. And Brett, if I may add a huge shout out to our teachers and custodians and TAs and staff, all our staff, office staff, the primary team. We've had an absolutely wonderful start to the year.
Absolutely. Agree.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right.
Any further business? 8:07, we'll call it adjourned.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you all for being
Thank you,
here.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye,
everyone.
guys.
Have a good night.
Bye.